listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean. Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Orange is the New Black After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Orange is the New Black After Show.
No one's singing this week. No one's singing. Megan's not here.
It's not the same without.
It is not the same without Megan. Megan will be here next week. But good afternoon, good morning, good evening, AfterBuzzers, and welcome to the first season of the 10th episode of Orange is the New Black, exclusively from Netflix. Episode called Bora Bora Bora. Bing is for doing it, and that's what we're doing today. So, I'm Thaddeus Massey, and joining me today is...
Hi guys, what's up? Scott Moore here.
Hi guys, I'm McKay.
Emma Kay and Scott Moore are joining us here, and like I said, next week Megan Thomas, Meg Scoop will be here, but we have super producer Marissa Serafini in the booth joining us today too.
What's up, guys?
So let's start off with, I just want to make a comment on this Bora Bora Bora. I think I pick on Morello a little bit, but I think it's just.
It is.
Because I'm like, see, this is a testament to the secondary school education system in America. It's just really like, what is going on? Bora Bora Bora? Really? Bora Bora Bora. Like,
it's so nice.
Bora cubed.
She named it thrice.
Right, named it thrice. Bora Bora Bora. That's why she's going on her honeymoon. Bora Bora Bora.
But I was just thinking, she's reading a magazine. Doesn't it have in the magazine just Bora Bora? Or is she like, what magazine is she reading?
I think sometimes, in like articles or magazines or newspapers, they do a play on words based on whatever the article is about conceptually or whatever. And maybe that's what happened. I can't remember. If you guys want to call in or give it 2 cents, that kind of went over my head where she got that from. I'm not sure where she got the third Bora.
No, I'm not either.
From. But that was the highlight of this episode, one of the highlights. There was actually a lot of stuff that happened this episode.
10th episode.
10th epised. 3 episodes left, unfortunately. They need to have like a regular old school 26 episode season for this series because it is that good.
Well, they will just after season 2.
Right. After season 2. Piper and Alex. Back in the mix. I don't know. This situation to me I'm not approving of this scenario. How do you guys feel about it?
I just like how Nikki is onto them.
I mean, Nikki is like, Nikki's on to everybody. Nikki is like waiting for some sexuality to come out from Piper or Alex or the both of them. Like she's been suspecting something. Like she smells the relationship a mile away, the history.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Can we imagine that wasn't going to happen, especially as it was set up that Larry, made the phone call to tell Piper that, she wasn't responsible for calling Piper out, and now they're back in this environment together. I mean, it was going to happen.
Let's just blame Larry.
Well, I mean, we knew it was going to happen.
Let's just blame Larry.
I think Larry was the one that sped it up, but I think it would have happened probably regardless at some point.
I agree. Because he put the wheels in motion. He put the wheels in, for it to roll, and now it's happening.
Yeah. He put that energy out there.
Yes, he was the catalyst. He made it happen.
He brought it into his universe, his worst nightmare. I don't. Larry Piper and Larry, I think this situation happened for a reason. As far as the relationship is concerned, like to me, they're not suited for each other. I don't see. To me, it's like she like looks at. She goes through life in phases. Like she did the young thing with Alex, that obviously got her in trouble, and they caught up with her. And she's in another phase now with Larry, relationship wise.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a phase. Obviously you see a lot of reflective things where you have to look at yourself in the mirror based on the situation that she is in, and Piper has to look at herself and say, is this really where I'm at in my life, or is this really where I want to be 10 or 20 years from now, based on the guy that she's with is, I don't know. And we're learning a lot about Larry. Like, even when he hangs out with Cal, you learn a lot about, like, really? Cal? That's what you're going to go to?
Because he doesn't really have any ambition or motivation. She's not there to give him that motivation to move forward. And the only thing he's able to get is a story based on her.
Right. And
so him and Cal share a lot of the similar, not interests, but at the same time they do, because he's out camping with him or staying with him, and they're doing stuff together and being buddy-buddy. And I didn't really expect him to be like that.
Well, I took two things from that. One is that he really doesn't have a lot of friends,
right?
For one, and then two, that Cal's sort of like the bond to Piper in a way, like, you know, it's the brother, kind of keeps it close.
Right.
But I really take it as he's lonely. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He doesn't have a lot of other things going on, and basically his life kind of revolved around her. And now, like you were saying, like the whole story and everything that he's getting moving forward, the writing is from her.
Right.
So that's like his connections. That's sort of what I took from him hanging out with Cal. I mean, those two things.
Just the extreme. You look at Alex, and then you look at Larry, and if they were to get in a boxing match, I would put my money on Alex. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like the polar opposite of her. And I still, you know, like I was saying, I still believe that Piper is still trying to find herself to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But she's playing it safe by being with him. You know, she's really like, she's still just searching, like totally searching. And I think this the stint in jail is a break for her. It's a good break for her from her normal life. And she doesn't listen to Polly like she should either. Like, Polly gives her good advice about things.
But she did listen to Polly. That's how she ended up with.
If she listened to Polly, she wouldn't have dated Alex to begin with. And she wouldn't have gotten into that scenario.
True, but she listened to Polly regarding the Chinese food ordering. That's how she ended up with Larry. That's what sparked them. Just an idea.
The Chinese food or the relationship, they're really significant. Chinese food's not a big deal.
Well,
I guess she does
like
listen to her.
Key, like, oh, okay, he wants to order Chinese food. He might be the one.
Right. So yeah, that was really funny. I mean, when it comes down to this relationship with Alex and it being bound, them being bound to, or kind of it being inevitable for them to start up again, it's like, let Larry go. Let him go. You're cheating. You're already in jail. He's already sticking by you while you're doing time, and now you're gonna hook up with the person who got you
into this
quote
mess
unquote got you into this mess. And I don't know, it's kind of whack to me. I mean, it's just really immature. I just think it's like, and she dated this person like 10 years ago, and she was like, that's 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. Are you really a completely different person?
Well,
I don't think so.
Alex admits that she's not.
I do think people, I don't know. I think people do change. Like, if I was with an ex 10 years ago, I don't know if I would be with that person today. Now, 10 years later. I mean, granted, people do change, and I think there is a lot of change that happened. But I look at the two people, like you were saying earlier, very differently. Like, Alex is driven. She had to come from a rough background where she wasn't given anything, and she's driven, and she wants to make things happen regardless, not necessarily the right way, by, you know, being in the import-export business there, as we say. But I don't feel like that Larry has the same drive, because I feel like he came from more of a pampered background. His parents took care of him. His parents have money.
He's a little sheltered, yeah.
A little sheltered. He doesn't have the same drive and ambition, and that's why he's kind of waffling around, kind of doing the writing, trying to make things happen. So it's almost like very different type of relationships, very different type of people that Piper's kind of been with. And I think being in jail, like you said, kind of brings her back into having to figure out who she really is again and what is the right direction she wants to go in going forward. So
I don't want to do a prediction on how this is going to end up with these two, but
she needs someone in the middle, because she likes the comforting factor that Larry has, but at the same time she likes how Alex is outgoing and motivated, but she doesn't like the type of business she's in. It's risky. Larry's a little bit more safe, but at the same time he's too boring for her. So she needs someone in the middle of the two of them.
Right.
So she needs crazy guys. They can just have.
he said she needs crazy eyes.
You know, nice balance of everybody right there. Get every side of it.
I threw my pie for you. Crazy eyes. Yeah, you know what's odd? Crazy eyes, in a like weird kind of way, is somewhat in the middle-ish.
She's able to turn on and off her personalities.
Right. It does seem like that. It's like she flips the switch, kind of, sort of.
She had what you got. She had a stable environment. I don't know. With the parents, we don't know. Maybe she didn't, but...
That's really funny. I really can't wait to see the backstory.
I can't either.
On Crazy Eyes. I really look forward to the backstory on her.
Mm-hmm. But what I want to touch upon is the fact that she left Alex when she found out her mother passed away, which is a really big
Did you find out later?
Yes. Am I ruining it again?
No. Slightly ahead.
Well, slightly.
But it has to do with them being together and how you could be with someone now when you weren't, with them when they really needed you.
Right.
So now you expect someone to sit there and listen to you and your problems of you complaining about your fiance while you're cozying up to your ex-lover.
See, this goes back to the proof that Piper is still really selfish. Like, for me, I believe Alex really does love her. Probably never really got over her. Felt abandoned by Piper, and Piper does what she does for selfish reasons, or indirectly selfish or directly selfish. She's thinking about how things affect her. Everything is about how it affects her, how it makes her feel. Oh, she wasn't there for the party. She wasn't there for Thanksgiving. She wasn't there for the party that the little gathering they had when Larry got his gig. Polly's birth. When Polly gave birth, she wasn't there for that. And it's always about how it affects her as opposed to being happy or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she's sort of like that. She's got that immature personality that, like, she's that type of person that's immature but somehow thinks she's mature and has it all together. But it's it's hard to explain, but they're really not, and they're immature, and almost like Larry in the way she's been, it seems, kind of sheltered too, and has her own way of looking at the world that isn't, that I think she's learning as she's been in prison to kind of broaden that horizon a little bit. But yeah, I feel like she's that immature, thinking she's got it all together kind of thing. But it's really all about her and what's going on in her world. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, one thing that actually showed some of that, it seems like there's outside things that are helping her to mature a little bit. And one thing, I guess, was this scared straight situation that they had with these kids that showed up at Litch to get scared straight. Everybody knows about the Scared Straight program. These girls are supposed to be badasses. They come in here, they're all tough and blah, blah, blah. And what's really funny is how the inmates were all excited to scare these girls. You're like, what? And
even the guard. What's her name was playing around with it too, like being all trying to scare him and everything.
Well, crazy. I thought it was going to be some sort of a performing gig.
Right.
It was her big break.
Right. Crazy Eyes is funny. So you've got these girls that show up at the Litch, and one of the girls is in a wheelchair. She seems to be the most unaffected. And for me, figuring, did they go into her backstory of how she ended up in a wheelchair or whatever? Okay, well, it seemed as if she'd probably been in a wheelchair for some time. And she's probably been through a lot. I'm assuming that the girl's been through a lot. At least that's what they tried to convey, that this girl, I think her name was Deena. Was it Deena? Deena had been through a lot growing up as a kid in a wheelchair. She might have even grown up in a rough neighborhood in a wheelchair. She's robbing stores and doing whatever, I guess, to prove that she's not weak or whatever. So she's totally unaffected by the scare tactics of the girls, which was really funny that Piper was the only one who was able to, like, break that invisible force field that this girl had put up.
Yeah, because she knew she basically called it as a bluff at the beginning anyways. When they started doing all that stuff, she knew.
Right.
And, and the same thing, like you're saying, she's trying to put up that wall, too, and act like she's so strong-willed and everything because she felt like she has to keep proving herself, even though, she's very vulnerable like everybody else, and
right.
Yeah, and Piper was able to kind of cut through all that, just being herself.
But what's really funny is Piper is not tough, you know, so to speak, at all. Really, she's really not tough, and these other women are tough. They're tough ladies, and Piper was able to just keep it real with her and tell Deena, I understand where you are, where you're at, and how you feel, and why you feel the way you feel, and just relate to her and get the girl to understand you don't have to be such and such to get such and such. This doesn't equal that. And it was a reflection of herself. It was like almost like she was kind of talking to herself. So that was a period of kind of self-realization for Piper, I believe, and a way for her to recognize what her weaknesses are and how she could see herself as this helpless girl in this wheelchair, because she's kind of theoretically kind of like this girl in Lit. She's like the girl in the wheelchair in Lit. She has to prove that she's tough, even though everybody knows she's not tough, and she has to figure out cunning ways in order to show that she's can survive in there with the rest of them, which is using her wits. But at the same time, you have women in there that are smart themselves.
Oh yeah.
You know, even though they're doing time. It's hard to, some people say they're not that smart. They're doing time.
They're very smart, and they're street smart, and there's definitely smart people. Absolutely.
Right. There's some intelligence going on in the Lich. So that was a kind of a redemptive kind of scenario for Piper. I liked seeing it. Kind of gave her some redemptive qualities as far as I was concerned. What do you guys think about that?
No, I agree with you.
I agree too.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, but it was a little immature what set it off. The fact that she had to be insulted for her to really play the role and tell the girl how it really was.
Right.
So I think she should have played along from the beginning.
Right.
And she was acting more ditzy, and she didn't know what they were talking about. You know, I'm not lesbian. What are you guys talking about? Why are you guys picking on me?
Right.
Which, you know, it didn't give her any credibility in front of the students. You know, the kids visiting, they're like, you want me to be afraid of her?
Right.
Until someone insulted her, then she's like, okay, well, I'm going to let you have it.
Right.
So, you know, but anything she's learned in prison is that you have to put up that front, and she has to be tough from the beginning. And she's kind of coasting along under the radar, hoping no one says anything to her, no one, you know, touches her, does anything, and playing it safe.
Right.
So I think she needs to step it up.
Well, we will see. If Piper steps it up. There's a lot going on in the Lich in Litchfield. Trisha, Mendez / Pornstache. Nikki, I kind of blame Nikki for this situation because she was mad at Red, and she kind of dropped information to Pornstache, which helped enable his operation, just because it was kind of like she was throwing a tantrum, and she was upset with Red for getting cut out of the fold, which I don't think Red was really like cutting her off. Trisha was cut off.
Yeah.
I think she was just mad at Red for cutting her off, but in fact, for cutting Trisha off, but in fact, Nikki wasn't really like cut off, but she was just like getting back at Red. And I think that was going way far.
Yeah.
Especially considering who she's getting back at her with. Obviously, the kitchen and Red, that affects everyone and everybody, and that's evident in what happens with Trisha. So Pornstache is not going to allow anybody to dictate to him unless it's somebody who's obviously one of his superiors, like Healy or something, tell him what to do, or you know, look, you see how much power Red has in the population, but yet still Pornstache can come pee in the Thanksgiving gravy and she can't do anything about it.
Right.
So you're like, this douchebag officer has power.
Well, and it's an abuse of power too.
It is a total abuse of power.
You know what he's doing and what he's able to get away with.
Right. So he's got Trisha collecting names and dealing for him. And
yeah, because what was it that he said? Because I wrote it down, which I thought was interesting, that he tells her about the the lender owns the borrower owns the lender.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, it was that he tells Trish
that
about
the borrower is always slave to the lender.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so I thought that was him trying to like have that power trip and abuse of power.
Wondering what would have happened if she said no, I'm not doing it. She was gonna be sent to the shoot? Like what was gonna happen?
He would have set her up to like spend time in shoot or do something, because she's obviously where she'd been getting her drugs from before. She was getting it from him. He's been the pipeline for dealing and for the circulation of drugs in the Lidge. So obviously she's a well-known user. And even though they can't prove that it's Pornstache, they know he's the one. I mean, Red knows, everybody knows. She was trying to keep her use under wraps. Obviously, when she got sick and she was having withdrawals, that all fell apart. So now she's just out of rehab, and now she's selling drugs. Yeah. Or distributing.
I was gonna say just out of recovering from all that. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I really think. I don't know. Do you guys think that the girls should have gotten together? I know Red it seems like she's trying to calculate something. To me, as far as Mendez is concerned, I think she's realized, or she's coming to realize, that playing defense is not enough. They have to be a little more proactive if they want to get him off of their backs and stop compromising. He's compromising everything. They're everything.
But I get where she's coming from too, where she doesn't want to have it involved going through her, like through her kitchen. So I do get where she's coming from, and I think she still has their best interest too with the girls. Like, she doesn't want them to be hooked on these drugs and have to be having to go through him and deal with all that. So I think it's just like you said, what is the best way of being able to take back that control and also be able to take care of the girls too from these drug problems that they're still a few of them are having.
Right. And that led me to think, why, going back to Red, why is Red in jail? Why is she locked up? It's not maximum security. It's minimum. If they had this whole thing with the mob bosses going on as far as getting government contracts and doing all of whatever, what is the purpose of her being there? And what is the purpose of her being in charge of the kitchen? Besides, it's obviously more than cooking. Like, they're smuggling. What are they smuggling in? If not drugs, because drugs is actually one of the biggest things that is transferred into the system and whatever and distributed. What purpose does this mean to her? I mean, what good is her position as far as her connection to the outside with Neptune and all of that's going on? That is what I want to know. I want to know deeper as far as what is really going on with Red. Yeah. Why is Red?
What things is she in control of, like, siphoning through the prison there through her kitchen? Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, well, if it's not drugs, what is it? Why is she? Do you guys have any theories on this? In fact, if you guys have any theories on this,
to know what
I would love to know what anybody thinks about what Red's importance is, or what Red's smuggling importance is to being in charge of the kitchen. 424-256-1729. I would really want to know. You guys can call in. Scott wants to know what you guys think. This is really something that's kind of baffled me. I'm like, because she's so anti-drugs. It's kind of like the Healy thing with the lesbianism, even though it's not about it's not homophobic. It's something else. Yeah. This is one of those things. Why is Red? What is Red's purpose, motivation behind, or what is the importance of Neptune and her connection with that? What are they bringing in? What is she bringing in, or what is she? It's not. She doesn't care about cooking that much.
Well, and how does she get that kitchen job? And
how does she get the kitchen job?
How did that all happen? Which I guess we'd love to know. I would like to know how all that backstory came and what. I think we talked about in the past. I think she kind of took the fall for whatever was going on with the contracts and everything, and obviously they don't know that she's connected to Neptune, the prison, or anything, or she wouldn't be able to have that kind of access. So I'd love to know all those details too, which I guess we'll have to wait to find out.
I would like to know if Neptune's was a vendor before she came on, or did she bring them on? And also, they might have been smuggling in drugs, but after seeing the effect it had on Nikki and the other inmates, which she's grown close to, she might have just cut it off because she saw the damage that it was doing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true too. And she cares about them, and you're right. But there's I still feel like you were saying there is more there that we don't know. There's more than meets the eye.
Or maybe she just, it's sad to say, but I think the power that she has in that kitchen and jail, she loves it. She didn't really have that power outside, so maybe she just likes the fact that she's in power, and just in some way it's just extended her years in jail.
I want to know if she went inside on purpose. Part of me feels like she's in there by design, based on some, I don't know, grand master plan scheme of...
Like you're saying, she took the fall so that these government contracts will still have and she could siphon what goes and get smuggled into the jail.
Right.
While the other people are on the outside dealing with that. I mean, that's a good point. That's what I'm saying. I do think there is more there. On what the purpose is and what that company Neptune is bringing in through the system there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'd love to know what that is.
What do you think, Marissa?
I really don't know.
So we're all stumped. Even super producer Marissa Serafini doesn't have an idea. So now we're really stumped about what this scenario is with Red. And I hope they don't wait until...
It might have something to do with her, like some similar situation that she went through that made her end up in the prison.
Right. Well, we saw a little bit of backstory a couple weeks ago about how she helped Nikki kick the habit or whatever. So obviously there's a personal, deep, rooted motivation behind staying away from any form of narcotic or whatever. And she gave Trisha 2 strikes. Because Russians don't play baseball, and that was it. Yeah. So now Trisha's on the outs, and she's totally under the power of Mendez, who's got her dealing, collecting names, keeping a ledger, roster or whatever, so to speak. And she ends up, of course, strung out again. We catch her in the closet. Was that a utility closet? Or they called her slumped up against the wall?
Yep.
Oh, that was kind of heartbreaking.
It was.
And to see a young girl like that, it was kind of inevitable, but it was so soon.
It was definitely intense. I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
I really wasn't, especially because the show, does a good job of having the drama and everything, but for the most part, still pretty light,
right,
and comedic. And I wasn't expecting to go that intense. Like you said in the first season here.
Right.
So that was a lot.
But I think it was well played with having the kids visiting the jail, because they got to see a reality of what jail was.
Right.
And it was only people scaring them and telling them stories of what might happen. They got to see and hear what actually happens and what people do to themselves because of the different things that go on. So I think it was positioned around that, around the kids and the visiting, but I think it was too soon.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could see ODing and being in the hospital and whatever, but for her to be killed off, I was like, wow, was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Plus, when she gets out, she calls her girlfriend. What was her name?
No, not.
Marissa, do you remember her name?
I know. I'm trying to.
Which girlfriend?
The one that Mercy.
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 And she tells Piper that she can't get a hold of her.
Right.
So I think all of that, is really playing in her head. The fact that Mercy's out, she doesn't know what she's doing, and
Boo told her, she's like, "You think she's gonna be thinking about you?" And so it's like her worst fears coming true. Like she even went so far to even try to frame Mercy for having drugs, so she would extend her sentence, and she would have to stay. So she was really, really emotionally dependent on Mercy in that relationship.
So it was being rejected by Red.
Yep.
Coming out and wanting to let Mercy know that she's clean, or just wanting to talk to her because she hasn't spoken to her in a while, and Nikki kind of acting up with her as well. And now she's basically a slave to Pornstache and has to still continue distributing for him. Everything just added up, and calculating that the fact that she has 4 more years to go.
Right.
I think to her it was kind of like, well, what is the point?
Yeah.
I mean, just like Scott was saying, it went really dark. Like this series is considered a dramedy, but that scenario or that's what do you call it? Subplot.
Yep.
It was really dark and very real. And it was really, really, really sad. Like, this girl, she has to be, like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 years old, something like that. And to see this happen to her, and then to see how it was handled by Mendez it really honestly pissed me off.
Yeah.
I was like, this dude, like, so he's gone from, like, Pornstache, a comical douchebag, to, like, a dark dude.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is really, really... And it's like almost kind of menacing. It's gone beyond just a D-bag to like a menacing character based on how he's like praying. You know, it was kind of funny. Oh, he gets sexual favors from the girls, blah, 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 blah. They kind of made fun of it. You know, like the tone of the show was they're kind of making light of it. You know, he was a kind of a character. But it's really gotten deeper with this situation with Trisha as far as I'm concerned. I'm like, they've got to kill this guy. They got to bump him off. Like, really, they got to like figure something out and... whack him.
Plus, going back to Trisha's, the flashback that we see of her life and how she grew up in the streets of, just trying to make, food, stealing, and the fact that she had a book where she kept what she owed and who she owed it to, and the fact that she was going to go back and repay all these people back is
a testament to her character.
Yeah, it is,
absolutely.
and you see her in a different light than you do when she's in jail and she was trying to frame Marcy. So you see the different side of her and how she went in.
Yeah.
And now I see why she was so vulnerable to Pornstache.
Right.
Yeah, that was a good point that you brought up about that with that whole ledger and keeping track of everything, and it kind of brings a whole back of kind of morality, like that right and wrong kind of thing. If you're stealing, but you're going to pay these people back, how does that?
Is it stealing?
It's a very gray area, but it does bring up a good point of that whole right and wrong, like thou shalt not steal kind of thing when she's keeping track and paying people back as she can. It was a very interesting.
And she took it very seriously. She didn't see it as stealing. She was just borrowing, and she was going to give it back.
Like she went to that one store to pay back headphones or something like that. Yeah, that was like, really? Like the guy's like, what?
And then bumping into her friend she was on the streets with, seeing her moved on, and she's living in a Section 8 housing with her boyfriend, offers her to come and, sleep over, and she's like, no, I'm 18, I'm finally free, they can't call my parents, so I'm staying at the shelter. To her, that's freedom, so... I
felt like, in that situation, those were just words.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but, she was really, the subtext was really something different. It was... more like, no, I'm okay too. Like, you've moved on, I'm good too. Like, everything is good over here. Don't pity me. I'm okay. I don't need the charity. I don't need the charity.
But which is why Red rejecting her was so vital, because she needed that. She wants to be accepted, and Red was a mother like she is to Nikki. Right. So she just kicked her to the curb and told her she doesn't want to have anything to do with her now. She doesn't have that support system to continue going.
Yeah, that was really
But who would have known what she was going to do and what she was involved with? She came out clean. I'm sure Red thought that she was going to continue being clean. It wouldn't have crossed her mind that she would get involved with Pornstache again, let alone OD herself in a closet.
Well, she did also mention in her backstory that she had a pedophile stepdad or something like that. So that gives you a little insight of how she ended up on the street, because they didn't really go too far into how she ended up on the street. They just showed her kind of on the street.
Yeah, and you knew that there was something going on in her family life. I mean, it does. It brings up the good thing with the morality, and it also brings up the stuff with addiction and how it can really affect people, and how widespread is that in prisons and in real life here, and things that I think a lot of prisons are dealing with out there. There's a lot of issues with that, and things getting smuggled in and drugs being one of them, and it is really sad to see how addiction can take hold of a person and ruin their lives.
Right.
So,
on to the next. I guess that's enough. That's a lot on Trisha, but that's a poignant, and I think it plays into the whole scared straight thing. Like you guys said, it all tied in together. That episode of them just having the girls happen to be there when this happened to Trisha, and that was a lesson learned for them, as well as the viewers who are saying the thing that's about this show is that they show a lot of things that women deal with. And a lot of the women have been victims of abuse at the hands of men, unfortunately, or the system or men, period. They've been the victims of abuse. And it doesn't, the situations aren't far-fetched, so to speak. They're not like unrealistic, like, oh, this is worst case scenario. It's like, this is stuff that's like everyday occurrences, things that happen and things that they've been victim to, and then now they're paying even more consequences for being victims of scenarios. It's like almost like really unfair. You're like, wow, this really sucks. Just and that segues us into speaking about what's her name, Daya. So now Daya is preggers.
Yikes.
By Bennett. And even though she's in love, I feel like she's a victim too. Even in this scenario of Bennett. Even though Bennett likes her, and I feel like he's kind of taking advantage, kind of. Even though it's like he likes her. It's like he likes her. He doesn't want to lose his job. But I have mixed feelings about this scenario with him and Bennett. Well, with her and Bennett. And then I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, it brings up two things to me. Like, again, I do think that he genuinely does like her, but they are in this unique situation with the whole prison. And I do think, what kind of relationship would they have on the outside if they had met on the outside?
Right.
Somehow, some way. So I do question that too. Like, would it be the same if they were outside of prison? Would he even given her a second look? I mean, he claims, I think maybe not in this episode either, because it's hard to remember, but that he would and would have loved her and found her attractive out in a bar or whatever. But I do wonder if it was out in the real world, if that would have happened. But I don't think that I do genuinely believe he does like her.
Okay.
They're just in a situation.
She brings up a good point that they wouldn't end up at the same bar.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, would they have ever met in the real world, and would he have ever found her attractive in the real world in that sense?
I think so, and the reason why is because he just seems like he's not very social, and he doesn't probably have any game. So this is like easy pickings for him. This girl showed interest in him, and it was like, oh, she likes me. Oh, well, she's cute. I just don't get the impression that he experiences a lot of female interaction.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know it. I feel like that's a genuine situation there. But like you were saying, I don't know how it would have unfolded in the real world and if they would have ever had any kind of relationship. I
think he likes her, but it's more of a summer fling where you have, the summer fling and someone goes off. But he has to see Daya for, I don't know. I don't think we know how many years she's in there for.
We don't.
But I'm guessing, it has to be over a year. And now you're bringing a child, so it's a child of the system. It's a product of the system. What kind of a family is that?
She's a product of the system herself, so she doesn't really know any different.
Yeah,
she grew up in the hood or whatever, and her mom is what is her name? Adelida. She's a whack job, to say the least. She's got 5 kids, and she's got her boyfriend.
Probably with 5 different men.
Right.
Because she just seemed like she doesn't care about any of the kids.
Exactly.
She's just going out on her dates. I mean, what did you guys think when Cesar came into Bennett's place? That was kind of creepy how he first of all found the place.
It's creepy that
I thought it was
showed
more
up at his door.
of a jealousy. Like, how are you with her? How did you end up with her? Like, why are you with her? It wasn't more like to see where he lives and the... to scare him off, like, you better be with her. It was more to see who he is because he's jealous. That used to be his girl before she ended up in jail, even though the mom doesn't really know about it.
The mom knows.
Well, she doesn't know to what extent.
No,
I think she knows that probably they hooked up once.
Yeah, because I know she knows they hooked up.
But I don't think she knew that they had an ongoing relationship. So it's...
I don't know about that one.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, so we'll talk about this next episode. We'll talk about...
Yeah, I want to go deeper in that, too, because I have questions about a few things with their relationship as well that I want to go on that we talk about more in 11. So I'll save that for next week.
Okay, awesome. So next week, we'll talk about Pennsatucky going to psych. And
how she all happened when she was trying to save the... It was like she was trying to save the girl, right? And
that was perfect.
Alex has her thinking that she's like his healer now, and like she's like Jesus reincarnated or something. Like she, we'll talk about that.
Oh my God, that was
next
hilarious.
Yeah, that
like,
was
I have these 10 fingers.
She does a couple of healings. So
does she?
Yeah,
she does a couple of healings. Anyway, do we have any? Let's go into news and gossip before we go into the next episode.
AfterBuzz TV News.
No news.
You know what's funny? What sucks about this? This is usually what Megan does.
What about gossip?
News and gossip usually done by Megan Thomas, who's not here because she has the scoop. She's a big scoop. She has the scoop. Right. Do you have any gossip though, Scott?
No gossip.
No gossip? Emma, any gossip?
No, but we could go out on predictions.
We can go on predictions. Okay, so we'll do predictions.
I want season 2.
I know, that's right. You have to talk about season 2.
No, really? Okay, so episode 11. Scott, we're only gonna let you do predictions.
How rude!
I think everyone should do predictions. Maybe we should go on.
Okay.
We're already on episode 10, and we're getting closer to season 2.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna start talking about season 3.
All right. Okay, Scott. So, what is your prediction for week 12?
Well, you know what? It's gonna be interesting. First of all, to see what the whole Bennett and the whole pregnancy thing.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good because it's going to be found out. I think we talked about this in the past. It's going to be found out, and it's not going to end well for any of them. Okay. So I think he's going to be out.
Okay.
By the end of the season, yeah.
Ooh.
That's going to be my prediction.
Ooh.
Okay. Emma, yours?
Well, we know that we're going to have a new inmate coming in for season 2. Mm-hmm. So my prediction is that someone, either Alex or Piper, they're going to hook up with this new person. One of them is going to be upset, but I also have a feeling that Piper's term is going to be extended more than what she's sentenced.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It has to be. Mm-hmm. I feel like Nikki is going to get in the mix with somebody, relationship-wise. She has to replace Morello.
Okay, I was just saying, some like mix, like fighting, or
no? Yeah, she's gonna get in the mix relationship-wise. She needs a new lover. Because Morello has to tighten her stuff back up for Chris. Anyway, where can we find you guys until next time?
You guys find me on Instagram and Twitter at RealMK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SMan80. That's SMAN80.
And you can find me here and Twitter and Instagram at Club Thaddeus. Until next time, After Buzzers.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.